Welcome back to Anime Recap, anime fans. Today, we're recapping the highly requested second part of Mysterious Girlfriend X. If you haven't seen it yet, make sure you check out Part 1. The link is in the description below. In Part 1, we were introduced to Tsubaki and his mysterious new girlfriend, a transfer student named Urabe. Urabe is always dozing off in class and hasn't really given anyone the chance to get to know her. Because of that, a lot of students thought she was weird. But one day, Tsubaki catches Urabe sleeping long after classes ended, and in a moment of irrationality, he tastes her drool before waking her. Since then, Tsubaki has literally become lovesick and needs a daily dose of Urabe's drool to keep him from getting sick. As Tsubaki and Urabe's bond grows, so does their physical connection. At the end of Part 1, we find out that the two can sense each other's physical state by swapping drool. Stay tuned to find out what happens in Part 2. Urabe and Tsubaki's story continues during PE class one day. Oka, who is dating Tsubaki's best friend Ueno, is shocked at Urabe's speed when they are running laps. Eugene, the school's track star, tries convincing Urabe to join their track team. Urabe looks shocked at his suggestion but refuses him. He does make her promise to run for them recreationally though, which Urabe agrees to. On their daily walk home, Urabe tells Tsubaki about Eugene asking her to join the team. Tsubaki remembers how quickly Urabe demonstrated her scissor skills to him, so he isn't really surprised that she's been recruited to join the track team. Urabe reveals that the reason she's turned Eugene down is because she doesn't want to miss her and Tsubaki's daily walk home, and she can't miss out on giving him his daily dose of drool. Tsubaki is moved by Urabe's revelation and moves as fast as he can to hug her. Urabe easily dodges it and reminds Tsubaki not to grab her without asking first. The next day, Urabe skips her usual afternoon nap to run around the track. Oka is surprised at this since she knows how important sleep is to Urabe. She brings Urabe some water and the girls chat. Oka knows about Urabe and Tsubaki's relationship and their drool swapping. She implies that Urabe is skipping out on track for Tsubaki and jokes that he owns her. Urabe doesn't like the joke and grabs Oka to stop her. The two get up and continue training. Tsubaki watches them from a classroom upstairs, admiring his girlfriend as they stretch. The next day, Urabe is shocked to see Tsubaki is absent. During lunch, Oka feeds Urabe some of her food and informs her that Tsubaki is sick and stayed home. Just like she did in Part 1, Urabe heads over to Tsubaki's house after school. She meets his sister and tells her that she's there to deliver homework and notes. Once in Tsubaki's room, Urabe gives him his daily dose of drool and he's immediately feeling better. He tells Urabe that her drool makes him feel like he's sitting in the sunshine. Urabe is satisfied that he's feeling better, so she heads back to her house. Once Urabe is inside her dark house, she slips off her coat, revealing a red two-piece on underneath. The bikini is what made Tsubaki feel as if he were bathing in the sun, even though he didn't know about it. Field day arrives at their high school, which Urabe told Eugene she would participate in for the track team. As they are waiting for their turn to run, Urabe catches Oka up on what went down at Tsubaki's house yesterday, and she lets her have some drool so she can see for herself. The vision leaves her blushing. Soon enough, it's time for Urabe to run for the track team. She does incredibly and wins the victory for the team. All the students congratulate Urabe, but Tsubaki is notably missing. Later on that day, Tsubaki and Urabe are walking home. Tsubaki is impressed with Urabe's speed and he tries convincing her to join the track team. Urabe lifts her skirt just a little, revealing the name tag that was stolen from Tsubaki's locker, adhered to her upper thigh. She tells Tsubaki that he owns her legs. So she isn't joining the track team because they belong to him. One night, Tsubaki has a wet dream about Urabe, and she takes her uniform off in front of him. He wakes up blushing. It's a weekend, so he knows he needs to get out of the house to get his mind out of the gutter. Of course, Tsubaki finds himself walking around Urabe's neighborhood. She runs into him on her bike just getting back from the market. They are right outside of her home, so Urabe invites him up to her apartment. Once inside, Urabe reveals that she lives by herself. Since they are alone together, Tsubaki begins blushing as he immediately remembers the dream he had the night before. Urabe sends Tsubaki to her bedroom while she grabs them something to drink. He becomes overwhelmed by being in her bedroom and shoves his face into her bed, inhaling her scent. She walks in on him but doesn't make fun of him for it. The two sit in the room and talk while sipping their tea. It seems like Tsubaki has a lot on his mind, but he won't tell Urabe and is distracted by her tight sweater. It begins to thunder and storm outside. Urabe is spooked by the thunder and falls into Tsubaki's lap, which he doesn't mind at all. He tries cuddling her closer, but she moves away and waves her scissors in his face. He finally tells Urabe about his dream and his desire to get closer to her. She thinks it over and grabs herself while she lets him taste her drool, but experiencing it through her mind is not enough for the hormone-driven Tsubaki. Urabe gives him permission to touch her and he does, but he gets a little carried away. As he hovers over her after licking and feeling her, he discovers Urabe's face is wet with tears. Tsubaki says sorry and runs out of her apartment. The next day, Oka and Urabe are talking again. Oka trades some of her food for some of Urabe's drool, which immediately makes her blush. Because of the drool, Oka knows Urabe and Tsubaki got up to something the day before, but Urabe won't admit anything since she's extremely private. All day during class, Tsubaki keeps stealing glances at Urabe. She doesn't return the glances and Tsubaki drives himself crazy, wondering how she is feeling. On their walk home, Tsubaki apologizes again for getting carried away in Urabe's bedroom. She insists she isn't upset about it. As Urabe turns to him to give him his drool before they part, he stops her with a blush. Tsubaki asks Urabe to slap him before giving him the drool. She complies, smacking him twice across the face, and gives him her drool. Then, Urabe tucks her hair behind her ear and asks Tsubaki to touch it, which makes her tear up right away. Tsubaki begins to apologize, but she tells him he has triggered new reactions in her body, and she likes them. Urabe sticks her finger in Tsubaki's mouth before he can protest, and tastes his drool so that she can experience what her slap felt like. Her face becomes red to match his, both cheeks stinging from the slap. The next day at school, they have some free time, so Oka insists Urabe let her do a makeover. Oka pulls Urabe's hair up into 2 pigtails, showing off her whole face. Suddenly, all of the students can't believe how great Urabe looks now that they can see her face. The boys can't stop talking about her during gym class, and Tsubaki begins to feel a little jealous. On their walk home, the sky tinged with red, Tsubaki tells Urabe to go back to her old hairstyle. She shows up to school the next day with her hair covering her face again, and she turns down Oka's offer to fix her hair for her. Oka knows Urabe is turning her down because of Tsubaki's jealousy. Even though her hair is back to normal, the boys in class have not forgotten about Urabe's brief new look. One of the students took photos of her with her hair in pigtails and is trying to sell them to the other boys. Tsubaki overhears and crushes his cup. He's really angry, but tries to not let it show since he and Urabe are only dating in secret. One of the guys says Urabe looks like a celebrity singer they know. Tsubaki is curious, and after school, he buys a magazine with the pop star's image on the cover, thinking she's beautiful. When Urabe finds the magazine, she slices it up with her handy scissors. Clearly, Tsubaki isn't the only one who gets jealous in this relationship. While at the shop getting another magazine with the pop star, Tsubaki bumps into his old crush Hayakawa, who has cut her hair short to look like Urabe and the pop star, which leaves Tsubaki blushing. The two take a walk to the park, and the girl reveals that she is single again. She asks Tsubaki if he is seeing anyone. Tsubaki panics and doesn't really give her an answer. She tells him that she knew he used to have a crush on her, which Tsubaki owns up to right away. He takes it a little further than he perhaps should and admits that he used to keep a picture of her in his wallet. This makes Hayakawa tear up, and when she peeks up at Tsubaki, with tears running down her face and drool dripping off her chin, he begins to blush. He's staring at the drool, but she doesn't seem to notice or care. She asks if they can continue hanging out sometimes, and Tsubaki agrees to meet up again if she lets him taste some of her drool. She seems a little weirded out, but lets him taste it anyway and holds her wet finger out to him, blushing. As he's about to taste it, he begins to tear up as he remembers what Urabe told him about the bond they share because of the drool. Tsubaki cringes and apologizes, but he realizes he cannot taste Hayakawa's drool. She begins to catch on and realizes Tsubaki must be in a relationship. This doesn't deter her though, and she tells Tsubaki that her drool might taste better than his girlfriend's. Tsubaki rejects her again, but he tells her Urabe's name. When she goes home, Hayakawa can't stop thinking about Tsubaki and what it would be like to give him her drool. The next day, Hayakawa stops Urabe on their way to school and tries introducing herself. Urabe tells her she already knows about her. Hayakawa gives Urabe an invitation to a school function in a few days, and coyly mentions that Tsubaki will be there, which obviously gets Urabe's attention. That night, Hayakawa calls Tsubaki and begs him to come meet her. Once he's there, she acts coy and says her ex-boyfriend attacked her. Because of this, she needs protection for the school function next week. Hayakawa asks Tsubaki to pretend to be her boyfriend there, and she doesn't mention that she has invited Urabe. Tsubaki agrees, but only after some convincing. Urabe asks Tsubaki about his plans over the weekend during their walk home. Tsubaki doesn't mention the school function and instead lies and says he's meeting up with Ueno. Of course, Urabe checks this information with Oka, Ueno's girlfriend. Oka says Ueno and her are hanging out on Sunday and Ueno is not hanging out with Tsubaki. In fact, Oka and Ueno are attending the school function together. Finally, Sunday rolls around. Hayakawa shows up looking like her old self, the girl Tsubaki used to have a huge crush on. She even wears a long wig. Tsubaki falls for it immediately and is happy to have her on his arm. Urabe momentarily forgotten. The scene cuts to Ueno and Oka, who also appear to be having a great time. They go to a maid cafe where Oka dresses up as one of the maids to surprise Ueno. He's thrilled at first, but when Oka gets attention from other cafe visitors, he gets jealous and leaves. On her own, Oka sees Tsubaki and his new fake girlfriend. She follows them intrigued. They go to an empty classroom where Hayakawa insists Tsubaki taste her drool. Oka is about to jump out and stop him when Urabe reveals herself to Oka. She's wearing a weird costume and was watching the whole time. She steps out and says Tsubaki should be blindfolded and taste test her and Hayakawa's drool. He agrees. Urabe gives him her drool first, which immediately makes his nose bleed. Even blindfolded, Tsubaki knows the drool is Urabe's. He also realizes that she's naked under her weird costume. She quickly cuts it up to confirm his guess. Hayakawa is jealous and also removes her clothes so her and Urabe are even. Tsubaki can't believe his luck as he stands before two naked, beautiful girls, even though he's still blindfolded. Hayakawa holds her drool out to Tsubaki, but Urabe points out that she's crying as she does so. Urabe says she wouldn't be crying if she really liked Tsubaki. Tsubaki realizes that Hayakawa is only interested in him because she's fresh out of a relationship. Rejected, Hayakawa falls to the floor in tears as Urabe watches, seated on a desk. She gets up and tastes Hayakawa's drool, which is sweet like her own. She comforts Hayakawa and tells her one day she will find someone who loves her. Tsubaki can't deal with the thought of them tasting each other's drool while fully undressed in front of him, and he shakes his blindfold loose. His entire face goes red as he sees them standing in front of him. Oka calls Tsubaki out for being a creep, and each girl takes their turn slapping him, sending him to the floor. Hayakawa and Urabe continue to argue with each other, but both girls quickly get over their feud, and Hayakawa begins laughing. Hayakawa apologizes to Urabe for trying to take her man. Tsubaki apologizes on their walk home too. It seems all is forgiven, and Urabe reminds Tsubaki that he is going to be the first man she gets intimate with, which makes him blush. A few days later, Tsubaki and Urabe are walking home together. They swap drool and Urabe is confused by Tsubake's thoughts. He catches her off guard when he tries to swoop in for a hug, but she dodges it and whips out her scissors. She accidentally slices him a little when she's threatening him, so she takes him back to her empty apartment to tend to his wound. Urabe is distracted and is shocked to realize her aim is off with her scissors, which is why she accidentally cut Tsubaki. Back in her room, Tsubaki still can't stop thinking about the way he saw Urabe the other day. He tries to leave since he knows he can't control himself. On his way out, he trips to avoid hugging Urabe and bangs his head. Urabe comforts him and tells him he doesn't have to hurt himself to avoid hugging her. The next day, Urabe surprises Tsubaki with a big hug, and the couple seems to be really in love. One day, Tsubaki walks in on his sister Yuko, drooling and snoozing on her desk. He asks if she's in a relationship, and she's shocked that Tsubaki found her out so easily. Urabe runs into Tsubaki's sister, and the two decide to hang out for a bit, and it goes well. Later on, Tsubaki, his sister, and their father go to visit their deceased mother's grave. They place flowers and burn incense while they pray. The next day, Urabe reveals to Tsubaki that she got coffee with Yuko, and his sister gave her a mochi before they left. Tsubaki seems moved and tells Urabe that mochi used to be his mother's favorite. Tsubaki tells Urabe more about his deceased mother, and they make plans to go to her grave together. They meet up over the weekend and head to his mother's grave. Urabe has flowers with her, which Tsubaki appreciates. Urabe also coyly tells Tsubaki that she dressed up because she is meeting her boyfriend's mother. I'm not sure how his mother would feel about this, but Tsubaki and Urabe exchange drool while sitting at her grave. They walk home as the cherry blossoms bloom, and Urabe tells Tsubaki that now that they are properly bonded, their relationship will be going to the next level. What do you think of Urabe and Tsubaki's relationship? Let us know in the comments.